Welcome to the last two sections of Chapter 4. Now, today we are going to be talking about ratios and what we call rates. Now, both of these concepts just happen to be, in this case, fractions. Aren't you excited? And we are going to be talking about writing equivalent fractions with the same increment. That means the units of the fraction that are with the numbers are going to be the same. We are also going to talk about different increments. Now, sometimes these different increments you are going to have to convert. Your book believes that after all of these years of mathematics, that you know certain basic facts. 12 inches equals a foot. 5,280 feet equal 1 mile. There's 24 hours in a day. If there are some homework problems that you do not know how to convert, you're going to need to ensure that you Google it and write it down and memorize it when you go to take your comprehensive final exam, because they're not going to give you anything. You need to know what they are. And then we're going to talk about something called a rate. Now, rate comes in two specific categories. A rate has different increments that we can't make the same. A ratio, the units we can make the same, but a rate, not the same. And we have two special types of rates, one called the better by and one called the unit rate. Then we're going to be introducing proportions. We're going to start with some basic parts of proportions and determining whether they're a true proportion or not. And then we're going to find a missing number. Well, we're going to be given three numbers. We have to find the fourth. And most of you have done proportions in the past. And then we're going to deal with the lovely story problems, where you're going to have to set up your proportions. Now, I'm going to let you know that there are many different ways to set up a proportion. I'm going to teach you one way, because if I show you all different types, you're going to get confused. It's easier to do it one way, and this way always works. So let's begin. Okay, a ratio is a fraction. Okay, now this is most important. It can be a proper or improper fraction for a ratio. Okay, now a rate can be something different, but in this particular case, a ratio is a fraction that has the comparison of same units, or can be made to have the same units. And you're going to see how this works. Well, first off, notice the instructions. Write a ratio. Well, first off, a ratio is a fraction. And this little preposition that you see here, TO, in my first problem, is going to be the fraction bar. This TO represents the fraction bar. Now, I'm going to do it the long way for the first one, but I want you to know that this has feet and this has feet. That means that this will have 20 feet in the numerator, and after the word 2, 45 feet, appears. Now, same units. When they are the same units, these cancel out. Now, some people, when they see feet and feet up here on this line, they just cross these two out. They're the same. You can do it on the horizontal line, or you can do it when you put it in a fraction. But the key here is this fraction has to be reduced, which means if I divide 20 by 5, I get 4. If I divide 45 by 5, I get 9. This is my ratio. Okay? Now, let's make life a little easier. Okay, right away, when we go to this line, notice that gallons is the same. Well, they're going to cancel out. And as we told you, this lovely TO represents the fraction bar. So find that preposition. Then we're going to put the number 12 up here. And after the word TO is your denominator. You've got to reduce them. Well, if I divide 12 and 15 by 3, I get 4/5. This is my ratio. Well, let's go to the next one. Okay, now this one, again, is saying ratio. Okay, right away, notice this is meters and meters, which means I can cancel them out. This is a ratio. Well, here's my TO word. That's the fraction bar. Now what goes at the top is 50. It comes in front of TO. 75 goes below because it comes after TO. Now, I have to reduce this fraction. Well, I'm going to divide top and bottom by 25. This will give me 2/3. This is my answer. Now, here again, we have pints and pints. Well, basically, we can cross them out. They are the same. But again, here's my TO. That's my fraction bar. Now, 24 goes in the numerator because that's in front of this TO. And what comes behind TO is our denominator. Now, when I divide top and bottom by 3, now look at these instructions. Express your answer as a fraction. This is going to give me 8/5. Do not make this a mixed number. This is my ratio. It's 8/5. Okay. Now, we've got a good one here. Now, this is where everything you've learned in mathematics is going to change, which means you've got to remember, here's my TO, but notice this says hours, this says days, and again, write the ratio. Ratio means I need same units. Well, I'm going to let you know, in case you didn't remember, that 24 hours equals 1 day. 24 hours equals 1 day. Now, notice in this problem, which is smaller in measurement? Well, a day has 24 hours. So therefore, the day is bigger, which means this 2 right here is going to have to multiply by 24, which means I now have 5 hours 2. 2 times 24 is 48 hours. You have to recognize the conversion. This day has to be changed because I can't cross out hours and days. They're not the same. Okay? In this ratio, you must convert. Okay? In this ratio, you must convert, making the smaller measurement, making the larger measurement smaller, which is why we took 2 days and multiplied by 24. This is how we got 48. Now I can do what I did before. This hours and this hours can now cancel. Here's my TO, and that means there's my TO. 5 is going up here. 48 goes down here. This is my ratio. Now notice, larger units, that's days, become smaller units, hours. Now, here comes another one. Okay, right away, notice this is inches, this is yards. Okay, well, this is where you have to know that 36 inches equals 1 yard. The inches are smaller. I need more of them to make 1 yard. Well, that means that I am going to have to take again this 2 and I have to multiply it by 36, which means I now am going to get 18 inches to 72 inches. Inches. These have got to be the same ratio. Well, again, there's my lovely TO word right here. That is going to create the fraction bar. Now remember, I can now cross these out. They are the same, which gives me 18 with 72 at the bottom. But I have to reduce. That's what simplify means. I'm going to divide by 9. Well, this will give me 2. This will give me 8. But I'm going to have to divide by 2 again, which means this is 1/4. This is my ratio. If I had noticed that I could divide by 18, I would have gotten here quicker. But in a ratio, you don't have to get there quicker. You just got to get there. Okay? Now, here we come. We are entering into what we call rates. Okay, now this is a special rate or fraction. It is a special rate because the denominator must have a 1 in this. It's still considered a ratio because it's a fraction, but because we're talking rate, unit rate, there's a definition. Unit rate is a ratio, but it goes one step further. The denominator must be 1. And the other thing is, in a rate, the increments cannot be changed or converted. They must be interpreted. Okay, now here's what I mean. Okay, unit rate, like any ratio, has a preposition. Now, when I read the first sentence, I'm going to highlight the preposition. It says, Jacob drove 513 miles in 9 hours. Now, find the unit rate in miles per hour. Well, this is going to give you a clue. Per hour means 1 hour. Per and in are representing our fraction bar. Okay? This fraction bar, taking the first sentence, represents in. Now, what comes above is 513 miles. The fraction bar means in 9 hours. But if you notice, I can't cross out miles and hours because there's no way to make them the same. Well, then going to the second sentence. Okay, this is where it gets interesting. Unit rate means that down here on the bottom, I've got to have per hour or 1 hour down here. Well, now you got to ask yourself, how do I go from 9 to 1? Well, if I'm making it smaller, I am dividing by 9. 9 divided by 9 gave me this 1. Well, now I've got to go back. I've got to take this 513 and divide by 9? Well, 513. Okay, for some of you who had a little trouble with division, I'm going to come over here. This is 9. 545. This is 7. The answer up here is 57 miles. Now, there's something about a rate that I've got to tell you about. Okay. This fraction has to be interpreted. This fraction has to be interpreted. Now, how do we read it? Now, we can say 57 miles per hour. The per means 1. Or sometimes Pearson likes to say 15 miles per hour. Notice how these two are interpreted. It begins where I read top down, numerator per. Now, a lot of times they like to use what's in the question to help you, but some of you know what MPH means. It's an acronym for miles per hour. So when you read Pearson, you can get a phrase or you can get the MPH for miles per hour. Now let's take a look at a second one. Okay, now this one gets a little more interesting. Okay, now it doesn't say unit rate in the actual words, but it is telling you. Delroy joined a CD club that charges $189 for. This is our preposition, which means that when I write up to the first sentence, this is what for represents in mathematics. It's this preposition. It's this line. Now, what goes on top is going to be what comes in front of the word for is $189. Now, after the 4 is 29 CDs. That's your ratio. This is your first sentence. Now, here comes the catch. How much per CD? They're saying how much for one CD. Per means 1. Per means 1 CD did Delroy pay? Well, okay. Per means I want 1 CD down here on the bottom. Now, what and how do I go from 21 to 1? I am dividing by 21, which means my money is dividing by 21. Well, hopefully you know that this is 9 Each CD cost $9. Now remember, I have to interpret what that fraction means. Okay, you've got several possibilities here. $9 per CD, or one CD costs $9. Now notice I can read this from top to bottom, because if $9 is the price of one CD, then I can also say it backwards. One CD is going to cost Delroy $9. Or Delroy will pay $9 for one CD. That is also an interpretation. All three of these represent my interpretation. What do the numbers mean? Got to figure them out. Now, this next one has got several parts, and it is parts that you're going to have to work with, and you're going to read very carefully. Okay? Now, this is saying a unit rate application, which means we're into story problems. Okay? Sunshine Preschool has a staffing policy requiring that for every 60 children, there are 3 preschool teachers, and for every 24 children, there are 2 aides. Now, if you've ever or will work in human resources, these are things you've got to figure out. You're working for a company. You've got to have staffing, and staffing is what this problem is representing. Now, let's help you solve this. Now, they are asking how many children per teacher. Now, see that one little word? Per. Per is representing the fraction bar. But this is where it gets interesting, because when we set up this, children must be at the top and teacher must be at the bottom. And remember, the word per means one teacher. Well, let's go up here. We happen to have 60 children and 3 teachers. This is question A set up. How many children per teacher? Well, then we have to go back to the story. Children has got to be on the top, because that's what's over here. In the story, they're saying 3 teachers. But notice, can I reduce the numbers? Yes. If I divide by 3, 20 children per teacher. And remember, I'm interpreting this. There will be 20 children per teacher. Or I can say, for every 20 children, there will be one teacher. That is what the translation of this fraction represents. This fraction represents these translations. This comes from the story. Okay. Now, that's part one. Let's go to part two. Okay, this is still going to give me the same story as I had up here. But look at the question. This is asking me how many children per aid, and that should have an E after it for some reason. Okay. Well, again, the per is my fraction bar. And notice in front of the word per is children. What comes after the word per is my denominator. I can't change that. That's the mathematical setup that uses the English language. And don't forget, per aid means that this denominator has got to have a 1. This is that this denominator has got to have a 1. This is the setup for part B. Now, gotta come up here. Now, I'm going to make a fraction. Children is going up here. Aids are going down here. That's the same setup that I have to get. Well, again, notice I have 60 children. Okay. Okay. But take that back. Wrong thing. Okay. Because now I'm coming to this one, this part. Notice it says for every 24 children, there are 2 aids, which means this is going to create my fraction. 24 children. Okay. 24 children, 2 aids. I'm going to divide by 2 because remember, I got to get 1, which means 12 children. Okay. Now again, I'm going to interpret it. There are 12 children per aid. Each aid is responsible for 12 children. See how I'm interpreting what this answer means? So when you read the questions, read the choices very carefully, because they're going to tell you in words what the interpretation is. Okay. Now, here comes the next part. Okay. Okay. Now, this is where human resources comes into play. if there are 30 students at the preschool, how many aides must there be to satisfy the staffing policy? Okay, how many aides did you have to hire? Well, if you remember, we just learned that each aide is responsible for 12 children. Each aide is responsible for 12 children. That's what we got. Okay? So therefore, we're going to take the 60 students, or what we're going to call 60 children, and we're going to divide it by 12 children. Well, notice the nice part. This became a ratio. This is the same as this, which means I now have 5 aides for 60 children. 1 aide for each 12. This 12 divides into 60. That's where the 5 comes from. 5 aides for 60 children. Okay, that is my answer. We have 2 rates using what was up here. And then to answer C, I had to remember that each aide, because notice we're talking aides, is responsible for 12 children. Well, if I have 60 children, I better have 5 aides available to staff this. Okay, this is a story problem. Now, this one is going to bring in a second type of rate. This is known as what we call the better buy. Okay, something you need to know about a better buy. It is money divided by quantity. Okay. Money divided by quantity. Okay. Which means in my numerator, money is up here at the top. Quantity is in the bottom. This is how a better buy is determined. Now, if you work for any grocery store, Albertsons, Aldi, Jewel, Myers, they have a little machine that does this for you. But you get to do it and understand what the machine is saying. It is done by money over quantity. And remember, I want a 1 in the denominator because we're talking about a rate. Well, this is how it works. Bright Future has light bulbs on sale. Wonderful. A package of 4 sells for $11. Well, right here, okay, here's the word for, which is our preposition. But because this is a better buy, it is written $11 over 4. Money over quantity. And then we have the same brand and wattage packaged of 6 selling for $15.60. Okay, better buy means you have more than one choice. And again, this is going to be money, $15.60 over 6. This is money over quantity. Money is in our numerator. Quantity is in our denominator. Now, how do we work this? Well, we got to know what this line means. It means divide. Now, I'm going to go to the next slide, and I am going to set this up. Well, first off, I had the fraction 11 over 4. Okay, 4 is dividing into $11. This is going to give us 2. This is 3, and remember I'm bringing down. This is 3, and remember I'm bringing down. This is 7. Bringing down. This is 5. This is the cost of one light bulb. $2.75 per light bulb. Okay. Now, I still got the next one. Now remember, this one was $16.50. Oh, take that back. I got him backwards. $15.60 divided by 6. Okay. Now 6 goes here. 1560. This is 2. 3. Bring down the 6. Here's my 6. Okay. Now don't forget, I have this 0. And remember, money is 2 decimal places. Money is always 2 decimal places. So we have $2.60 per light bulb. Now, we were asked to find the better buy. The better buy is paying less for an item, which means the better buy is the package of 6. The better buy was the package of 6 light bulbs for $15.60. That was the better buy. Okay, now moving right along, proportions. Okay, now notice that I have 4 different letters. A proportion states 2 ratios or 2 rates are equal to each other, but it's a little more than that, okay? If A over B and C over D are 2 equal ratios, then I can actually take and put this equal sign between them. But there's a little more than that, and let me show you what it is. In this story problem, okay, they want you to translate. Now, I want to let you know that this is 2 fractions, and notice, see the word TO here? This is meaning that right here, there's my TO, 8 chairs is my numerator. 2 tables is my denominator. Now you see this word as in a proportion as represents equal signs. Now this time, this is not a preposition. IS is not a preposition. It is a linking verb. But over here, that is represents our fraction bar, because grammatically, I don't always place prepositions in my speaking voice. But 40 chairs are going up here. 10 tables are going down here. Now, I want to draw your attention to something, and this is probably what you're going to want to do. Do you see the word chairs in the numerator here? Chairs had better be up here if we want a true proportion. And notice again, tables is in the bottom. Tables had better be in the denominator. To be a true proportion, the increments must appear in the same position for each fraction, ratio, or rate. They must appear in the same position. If I had this fraction flipped where chairs was on the top, it's not a true proportion. They've got to be in the same position, which is what makes story problems so nice. Because the basic rule of a proportion when you are solving it in a story is the increments must appear in the same position. Now, here we go. Now, this is something most of you do know. When you have a proportion in your past life, you have taken the cross products. A multiplied by D, see right there? And C multiplied by B And then, of course, we have the equal sign. They must be equal. And again, note, the increments must be in the same position. Okay, that's when we get to the story problems. We're cross multiplying. Okay, here we go. It says use the equality test. Okay, now I want to share with you the equality test is going to be you cross multiply. Do you get the same product or answer? The equality test is telling you cross multiply. They don't use the words, but they are telling you that's what equality test means. Well, here we go. We're going to take, in this case, this 3 and this 52, and notice where I'm putting my answer. It's right here. Well, if I take 52 and multiply by 3, I get 156. That goes here. This number multiplies by this number. This number multiplies by this number, and it goes over here. Now, I'm going to take this 12 and this 13, and I'm going to put my answer here, which means I have 12 times 13, 156. That goes here. 12 multiplied by 13 goes here. Now, I want you to notice the words cross multiply. Look at this symbol right up here. This is said to be a cross. What did we do? Multiplied. And notice where I put my answers. Does it matter? Yes. That 3 times 52 is going below the fraction that started with the 3. The 12 is going to have the answer of 12 times 13 below it. And they are equal. This is known as a true proportion. Okay. Well, let's try this one. Okay. Here we go. Same words, equality test. This 6 times 55 better sit right here, which is 0, 330. Okay. Well, now I'm going to take this 24 and this 15, and I've got to put my answer here. Notice the 24 is the second fraction. Well, that means 24 times 15. Now, some of you forgot that you got to move over. This is 0, 6. Ah. Now, are these two numbers the same? No. Okay. So they are not equal. They are not equal. So these are not a true proportion. They aren't equal. Okay. Now, we're going to get into some types of setups. And this is where it's going to be real interesting. If you want to use, and notice they're using the word true proportion. Okay, this is where you're really going to have to pay close details. Okay, go to the first fraction. Goals is up here. Goals are here. Wonderful. Check the denominator. Gains are here. Games are here. Step 1. Check the increments. They must be in the same position to move forward with cross multiplying. Well, step 2 is going to take this number 7 and this number 6, and I'm going to put it here. That is going to give me 42. Well, now I'm going to take this 9 and this 4, and I'm putting them here. This is 36. They are not equal. This is not a true proportion. Okay, 42 does not equal 36. Okay, let's try another one. Okay, now look at this one. This has ounces up here, but ounces down here. This is not a true proportion because when I first check the increments, they are not in the same position. I stop right away. I don't have to do anything. They're not in the same position. So therefore, I don't even have to cross multiply. Now, I will admit that if I cross multiply first without checking the increments, I guarantee you I would get 30 equals 30. Okay, because notice here, if I take 6 times 5, that will give me 30. If I take 15 times 2, it will give me 30. The numbers equal, but the increments don't. Be careful. You must do step 1, checking the increments first, because doing step 2 before step 1 will give you an incorrect answer. You've got to do step 1 first. Okay. You have to check the increments because as you see here, and Pearson's going to do this to you, this numbers, that's step 2. I don't cross multiply until I confirm the increments. So be careful with a true proportion. Increments go first. Then I cross multiply. Now, let's look at the last one. Okay, increments first. Notice what I have here. Cups of coffee at the top, cups of coffee at the bottom, and no top. Cups of coffee at the bottom. And notice I have dollar signs at the bottom. Okay. Step 1 has the increments in the same position. Step 2, cross multiply. Well, that means that I'm taking this 2, I'm taking this 2 and this $3, and I'm coming down here. 2 times $3 gives me $6. Okay? Now, I'm taking this 4 and I'm multiplying it I'm taking this 4 and I'm multiplying it by $1.50 and I'm putting it here. And notice I will get $6. This is a true proportion. Okay. Increments first, then math. Check the words, then check the math. Okay. Now, next, proportions. Well, many of you have done proportions in the past, and this is going to give you a cross product. Okay. Now, I want to indicate to you, you see down here where it says cross, check your answer? Well, they're also going to tell you or ask you on occasions, is this answer reasonable? Okay, that's another way of checking your answer. Is it reasonable? Okay. Are you going to pay $40 for 1 cup of coffee? Well, some people might if it's real expensive coffee, but is it reasonable? No. Okay. Now, we're going to cross multiply. And we're going to form an equation. That means it's got an equal sign in it. Then we're going to divide both sides so that the variable stands alone. Okay. Well, it's easier to show you than it is to tell you. But as I said, I've always given you these. Well, here we go. This is saying find x. Well, notice x is down here. Well, that means I'm going to take 25 times x, and I'm going to write it right here. Now, when I write it, the number 25 goes in front of x. Then I'm going to take this 20 and this 10, and remember, I'm multiplying, and it is going to be put right there, which is 200. Now, when I find x, there's an equal sign here. Now, I'm dividing by the number 25. That means that x is equal 28. Now, I do want to let you know that a check can also be 25 over 10 is equal to 20 over 8. Well, notice, if I take this 25 and multiply by 8, I am going to get 200. This 20 times 10 is going to give me 200 as well. So therefore, my answer is a good one. Now, do you have to check it? No, but it's your choice. Now, here we go. Second one. Where's x this time? Right here. Now, this is going to require that I take the 6 and the 7 first, and I'm going to multiply them. They are going to give me 42. Now, this time, I'm taking the 2 and the x and putting it here, which is going to give me 2x. And I'm going to put an equal sign in there because we're finding the value of x. I am dividing by 2 because I want the x all by itself, which is 21. Now, here we go. This one. Okay. My x this time is up here. Well, I'm going to take this 12 and this 21, and I'm going to put my answer right here, which means 12 times 21 better make sure I do this right. Okay. Because I didn't line them up very well. This is 12. Because notice my 4 has got a line underneath here. This is 252. Because notice there's no number underneath that 2. This is 250. Notice there's no number underneath that 2. This is 252 is equal to 18x. I'm going to divide by 18. Now, this does not ask me for a decimal, which means I better come up with what we learned in the past. This is 1. This is 72. X is equal to 14. That is my answer. I've got to know that I'm dividing. Whatever number x has, I'm dividing by it. Now, this is where we're coming to the end, and we have story problems. And notice what my hint is. Setup matters. Oh, yes, it does. Now, let's figure this out. Now, I do want to, before I even begin the story, is to show you that I have 3 numbers. Okay? 3 different numbers, which means I have a proportion, and the 4th number is missing. Okay? Well, how do I set it up? Well, it says that Gwen is planning a banquet for 75 people. period. That sentence has only one number in it. So that 75 is going to have to wait. I have to go to the second sentence right here. She is told that 4 quarts of punch will serve 15 people. Okay, this second sentence, will serve is my verb, which means I'm going to put 4 quarts in my numerator, 15 people in my denominator. My second sentence sets me up. Okay. My second sentence sets up the proportion. Now, remember, to find a true proportion, remember what we had to do? The first step said the increments have to be in the same position. Increments have to be in the same position. If I set up quarts here, quarts better be in the numerator here. If I put people in the bottom, people better be in the bottom. Because now, where does this third number go? It goes down here. This is what I'm looking for. How many quarts of punch does she need? Well, now I'm going to take the numbers. This 4 this 4 and this 75 are going to come right here, which means we have 300. 4 times 75 is 300, is equal to 15x. Divide by 15. Now this is where you're going to have to be able to interpret. Okay. Gwen will need to make 20 quarts of punch to serve her 75 guests. We are interpreting. 300 divided by 15 is where I got the 20. 300 divided by 15 was the 20. That is my x. And what does the x represent? The x represents quarts of punch. Okay. Last slide. Okay. Now, this is one you're going to really have to watch. Because again, setup matters. Now we have 2 partners. We have Sid and Stephanie invest money in their business at the ratio, oh, notice, 5 to 7. Okay, right there. That means 5 to 7. Now, with Sid investing the smaller amount, well, that means this is Sid, this is Stephanie. 5 to 7. 5 means not as much money as the person who has 7. And this is going to be where it comes in. Sid is going to be up here. Stephanie is going to be the denominator. Now, why does that work? Because notice right here, if Sid invested 8,000, that means his 8,000 has got to go up here. And Stephanie, notice, how much did Stephanie invest? 5 times x is equal to 7 times 8,000 is equal to 7 times 8,000. Divide by 5. Now x is going to give me $11,200. Stephanie invested $11,200. Notice it's got to be more. 5 is smaller than 7. But notice with Sid investing the smaller amount. Well, you got to look at 5 and 7. Which one's smaller? The 5. So Sid is at the top. Stephanie's at the bottom. So therefore, in my second fraction, Sid's 8,000 must be in my numerator. If it's not, then I don't have the correct answer. Now this ends our lesson for today, and it also ends chapter 4. Yay! I will see you hopefully soon.